Do we have any apologies? No.
We've got apologies from Councillor Towell.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Yes. Okay. I hope he's doing okay. Thank you. And does anybody wish to declare any interests or dispensations? Any councillors? No. Okay. Thank you. So we review the minutes now. And I will just ask if councillors have read the minutes. I have. And does anybody have anything to raise from the minutes from the last meeting? Councillor Gardner.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not in correspondence, but we've obviously received a response from Cornwall Council about the proposed play park in Mountwise Gardens. Are we going to discuss that anywhere?
I think we did all receive that as an email to the committee. I'm not sure whether that meant it needed to be in the minutes or not. Sorry. Yes. So.
So I mean, I was
Thank
within
you.
that email circulation, but I wasn't given any directive to put it on the agenda. However, we can discuss it under any other devolved open spaces and any other items. So we can bring it up there.
Great, great steer. Thank you. Was there anything else from the minutes from any other councillor? No? Okay, so thank you, everybody. And now we're at the open session for the electors of Newquay. Thank you so much for waiting patiently, people in the gallery. I'm sorry. I do, don't I? So I propose that we approve the minutes from the 9th of July, seconded by Councillor Slade, and voting in favour. Thank you all. Those are passed. Thank you. Thank you for that catch. And open session for the electors of Newquay. Thank you. Who would like to speak first? Would either of you like to come and speak? You're just here to... I'm sorry?
Just after the presentation.
Presentation, great, thank you. So would you like to? Can I ask you to come and take the microphone? Thank you. And then we can all hear you and possibly anyone else listening.
So working?
Video. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Thank you for introducing yourself. And
my name is Jason Russell.
Thank you.
My questions are about, it's actually covered a little bit later on vaguely, about the grass cutting in Newquay and lack of, and the weed control. Now, I'm this Phil guy that was mentioned earlier on from Cormac. I've been in contact with him. I've had official dates, 5 dates through the year to the cuts in my area, and there's been 2 so far. So there's, it's just not, the dates they gave me, one of them was actually in May when it was a no-cut May, so I don't know why that was there. And there's supposed to be 6 weeks between cuts, but there's been 12 weeks. There's only been 2 cuts so far this year. I contacted Cormac about the grass verges and also the brambles on the footpath leading up to Morrison's. There was a guy on a disabled buggy, he could barely get along the path. A couple of days later they turn up. Now I don't know how it works. I don't know how, I've been trying to chase how the billing is for this. So I don't know how it works. If they're not doing the work, are they still getting paid for work they're not doing? I contacted them in end of July about the grass opposite Morrison's. That hasn't been cut all year. And then a few days later they turned up for that and they said they missed it by mistake. But who checks their work to see if they're actually doing the work that they're billing for?
Right. Thank you. So thank you. So you're asking about the grass cutting on the verges.
Yep.
So at Newquay Town Council, we're not responsible for that. It's Cornwall Council's responsibility. We have 2 Cornwall councillors here.
Yep. I've been in touch with one of them.
Right. Okay. Great. And you know, we're happy to hear your concern, and we share your concern, especially if there's.
Well, my concern was more about. I mean, I've got a place in Weybridge as well. Now, Newquay Town Council increased the council tax by 27%. Their bit of it. Yeah. Weybridge increased it by 7%. Now, I've never seen Newquay looking so weed infested as it's been this year. You know, it just. I know that the. I think it was the Greens voted not to have weed killer spray, and I get that, but there doesn't seem to be a plan B. You know.
So there was a plan B proposed, which is that if residents had concerns about certain areas, they could contact the council and tell us about them, and we haven't received any, as far as I'm aware.
But you guys all live in Newquay.
I'm sorry?
You guys all live in Newquay. You drive around Newquay.
We do,
you must
and I have
see
been
it.
looking at them myself, yes.
And they must see it's such a state. Now, this is going to damage.
The difference between the verge and the curb.
Yep.
The Newquay Town Council has nothing to do with the verges.
Right.
So the fact that they're growing longer is a Cornwall Council management
Okay.
approach.
Okay.
And that's nothing that we have anything to do with. The bit between where the road hits the curb,
Yeah, the tarmac bit, yeah.
up until the past few months, yes. Other than the centre of town,
Yeah.
Newquay Town Council was spraying glyphosate pesticide.
No, I'm aware of that, yeah.
Yeah, that is dangerous, or seen by many bodies and the
get
World
that.
Health Organization as being very
No, I get all
dangerous.
that.
Yeah, and we have then stopped doing that. We've also spoken publicly here, and it's on the record that if any residents have concerns about the curb, then we were willing to, and we had budget aside, to go and use other methods, safer methods,
Right.
to manage those spaces, but we have not received concerns from residents up until your visit. And if you had specific places, we'd be happy to hear about that.
Pretty much most places in Newquay.
Well, I've been
yeah, I mean,
wandering Newquay. There are some places where it's not an issue, and there are others where it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
Did you say you live in Weybridge and it's not?
no, I've got a second place in Weybridge. I've got a house that I rent out in Weybridge.
But you reckon the roads in Weybridge are better than roads in Newquay?
Definitely.
And not using glyphosate to manage
They've
that,
got a
and they haven't
different
for years.
company. Cormac don't do their grass cutting in any way. They got their own.
Yeah, the town team, like
Yes.
this town, they do it there. We went up and met them to spend a few hours with them reviewing how they do it, which has been a variety of methods over recent years, which we've explored. We've got quotes for. It's all on public record here, and we're willing to do that when we hear about specific places where it's needed.
Okay. So when the damage is done to the roads, when people don't complain, who foots the bill for that?
Again, we'd want to hear about what damage there is to roads, because we haven't been hearing about any.
Cornwall Highway.
Is highways' responsibility overall anyway,
Okay.
legally, and at a policy level, and it's just been a voluntary spending of your council tax for a double management essentially by Highways and Newquay Town Council up until this year.
So can I just say, so Newquay Town Council was spraying weed killer, and now they've stopped, and any damage by the weeds that's going to continue, and it will damage the roads, it will damage the
Be
tarmac.
places,
Well, it's not maybe, it will do.
Okay.
Then that bill goes on to Cornwall.
are responsible regardless for highways.
Yeah. Just to clarify before the question, problem we got here is it's like, historically, Newquay Town Council used to do 2 or 3 weed sprays a year.
Yep.
Or where the road met the curb. I think Cornwall Council did used to pay us for it for a while, and then we just ended up doing it for free. But it was like just an extra thing that was done.
Okay.
But you know, now obviously we don't want to use glyphosate because
No,
of
I get that.
the reasons. And the question is, we will find a way to do it if there's a need. But there's also the question of whether or not is it the responsibility of Newquay Town Council to control the weeds on top of the responsibility of Cornwall Council to control. Do we do it twice? Do we tax people twice? This is the question we're asking. So I think this is a debate that's going to come up over the winter because we've gone through a season without glyphosate. We'll assess what the pros and cons are, and then we'll have to take it forward with working with Cornwall Council to see who does what with the weed. Yeah. So, go on.
Councillor Gardner would like to.
Thanks. I'm one of the 2 Cornwall councillors, the other one sat next to me.
Yeah, I get that.
We're about to have a big debate on this now, and I would really encourage you to hang around because
I'm
you can
gonna.
see where each of us lies on this. We've been backwards and forwards over this over a number of months.
Right.
I've been a town councillor for 8 years now on this council, and for every single day of that, this town council has been responsible for the weeds
Yeah.
and spraying where the path meets the road.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I think it's a disgrace at the moment. Not only did we vote not to do glyphosate, we actually voted only to weed control in any form 10% of the entire town. You know, you can watch the debate tonight and see that we still haven't finished.
No.
But I totally agree with you, and we can mess around all day passing the buck between councils, but ultimately it's only the people of Newquay that are missing out. And now every town council in Cornwall, of which there are 212, is responsible for weed control within their areas.
Right.
So I agree with you that we should just get on with it. And hopefully you'll see that in the debate in the next 10 minutes.
Well, I've been given the impression that it's actually Cormac is responsible.
No, Cormac are not.
No, I've been given, I thought that was it.
Verge, absolutely.
grass,
So the
but
verge
not
where
where
you
it
see
joins.
most
Okay.
of the grass,
Just where the road
90% of it.
goes.
Well, if I was a tourist coming into town and I saw it like that, I'd be
I
like,
think you'd notice the verges certainly, but
do I
that's
want? No,
okay, sir.
no, not
It's
just- not just the
everywhere.
verges, the weeds on the side of the road. in
Yes, the
tarmac.
weeds on the side of the road.
Now, I would look around and I think, do I want to come here? So that's how it affects Newquay.
Well, I've been looking in other councils as I've
we are
been
working.
around the UK this year, and it's the same everywhere for a variety of reasons. There's a growing awareness of the danger of glyphosate.
No, I
The-
get that.
the-
I get that you don't want it.
May
and
I
get
carry on,
why.
sir? Excuse me, I'm the chair of the meeting. Thank you. We have heard your concerns, and they're valid, and they're taken into account. But I'm just responding, thank you. Which is that there are 100 to 200 councils across the UK who are no longer using glyphosate, along with many other organisations, universities, schools, you name it, because of the dangers.
Yep.
Some of them are transitioning to other methods. We've put budget aside to do that. We've received a quote and for another method to have that done.
Right.
And then we've been caught in a debate about whether we go ahead with that or not. But I have personally put a lot of effort into getting that quote. And, excuse me, sir,
Yeah.
and when you drive around other counties, you will see also that not only the verge, the large bit of grass, but also the curb in many other places actually significantly more overgrown than in Newquay, in Cornwall as well.
Right.
So, you may have concerns, and you're not the only one, and dislike that. But we're also receiving messages from many other people in the community who are saying that they're happy that glyphosate's not being used. So, we're in that mode of do we shift to other methods, or do we do what other councils are doing, which is potentially to leave it a little bit longer?
Okay, just so I'm sure then,
Yeah.
who pays the council for maintaining the verges? Is it nothing to do with you guys at all?
Verges is nothing to do with us at all.
You do through your council.
You
tax,
do through
or-
your council tax.
The
yes.
normal council, not the Newquay Town Council bit that you, right, okay, all right.
So much, and yeah, appreciate the specificity and the Morrison's point
Yeah, yeah.
that you raised about the safety aspect as well. That's
Okay.
really useful to know.
Right.
And if we can help with outreach to Cornwall Council around, especially that safety aspect you raised, we're happy to try to do that.
Chair, am I allowed to?
And sorry, and then our councillor.
Yeah, Mr. Russell, I agree with you. And I agree to some extent about not using glyphosate, but you rightly point out that there isn't a plan B. This committee, against my wishes, has voted to stop using weed control on 90% of Newquay's roads and
Yep.
curbs, as
Yep.
has been explained, which leaves only 10 miles that they will actively treat. But as of yet, they've not come up with a plan to do it. So,
When they treat, how are they going to treat it?
well, we'll
Manually.
discuss about the various methods, but at the moment, it's manually getting people to go around and raking it out, which
Yep.
means that they grow back in 2 weeks' time. So they haven't actually come up with a plan yet. But
Okay.
we've got, in this meeting tonight, we'll be discussing about the various options that we've got.
Yep,
In the meantime, after abdicating the responsibility to keep the town looking tidier, because I agree the verges do need work as well,
yep,
I've received numerous complaints about the state of the town and how it's looking a lot scruffier
Yep.
due to the ingress of weeds on the roundabout, for the
Yep.
pedestrian crossings where you cross over outside Bishop's School, all around Newquay. And I walk every day around Newquay, and you can see over the last few months how weed has grown through the cracks in the pavement and down onto the verges themselves. And there's been no effort at all to eradicate that. And I think it's outrageous that we've got ourselves into this situation without a sufficient plan B. I take the concerns about glyphosate. Do you mind? You've had plenty of time. Both had plenty of time to voice your opinions about the matter. So I think it's only fair and proper that I can speak as well. So I share your concerns. There'll be some talk in this meeting about that, and hopefully we can come up with a plan B that starts to address it. But by no means is it going to be 100% of Newquay.
No.
It's going to be the 10%, and how we choose the 10%, again, is up for debate.
Okay. Switches off for the barn?
I'll just, yeah, thank you. Sorry, just make a few clarifications. There was a plan B. It's not manual. We've never directed our teams to go out and work manually. They're doing manual work on our property, which is not the curbs, and it's a whole other conversation. And if there were concerns coming in from residents, Councillor Monk, then we had asked that they please be forwarded to the council so that we can actually be aware of them and start to respond to them. I'm sorry?
Has the office received any emails or
I'm not
complaints?
informed of any. Are any officers aware of any? Thank you.
Should we deal with this when we discuss it on the agenda items, because the open session's going well over 15 minutes?
Totally get what you're saying, but it's just a point of clarification. If we're going to get clarification, it's good to be clarified by the office staff as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have received a number of emails in today. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's why
I see.
we wouldn't
So the
have them.
timing, yeah, thank you.
so,
Okay. So if we can be forwarded those later, that in coming week or so, thank you. That would be great. Thanks. Thank you, sir. Yeah, and we will review those and your points and look at it in summary together. But as I say, having not received them up until now, you're the first
Can I
to,
just say, on your site, the complaints section doesn't seem to work.
on our
Well, it
website.
wasn't-
Okay,
It wasn't working.
Okay.
I did send a message
right.
in a different way through it, but the
I wasn't
complaint
aware of
section
that
wasn't
either.
working at all.
Okay, thank
This was a
you.
month ago.
So Joe, is that something the team can pick up?
Might be working now.
Yeah, we
pick
can
up?
absolutely look at that. Thank you for raising that.
Yeah.
Switch this off?
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, definitely want to get that fixed. Thank you. Okay, great. So thank you to our Vice Chair and everyone for your input. Moving on to the next point, which is the actual agenda point on the biodiversity and weed control policy proposal.
Before we start that one, I've got a proposal now, because the Environmental Services Manager report's got a significant section in about the staff observations on weed control. And before we decide any policies on that, I would like to hear that and hear from the staff. So I'm going to propose that we move item 8A up to the next item in the agenda, so we cover that before the biodiversity policy and weed control. I want to hear from the staff.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah,
Councillor
I must
Hammond.
admit, I read that as well, and it's right down on the agenda, but I think I agree with Councillor Gardner. It's pretty pertinent to the discussion on the policy itself, so I would
With those
second
two.
that proposal to bring it up the agenda, please.
Okay, any concerns? But all in favour? Okay, great. So we'll move to item 8A, which is the Environment Officer's report. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Slightly nervous about this one now. Yeah, so I'm just going to start off by saying this isn't me saying we want to use glyphosate. This is just my research and
The
observations.
full report, or we're only discussing
I'm
this
just,
one?
I'm just going to, you can all read it, and it is there. So let's get it a second. So yeah, so I regularly carry out one-to-ones with the team throughout the month, and obviously we talk, and these are just their observations. They have raised a few concerns regarding the removal of unwanted plants. I'm not going to call them weeds because they are plants in the wrong place, and I think we personally need to get away from that. So as you can read, this is their honest opinion. There is an issue with the surface. If you're removing the plant by hand, you're not taking the whole root structure. So that root is still in there, and they generally come back after 2 weeks. So there's time constraints on that as well. With that, there's a little bit of wear and tear on the human body. Hard labour. It is part of their job, but it is also wear and tear on the knees and back. We've had 2 members of staff, one off with a sore shoulder and someone else with a bad back at the moment. You also get a lot of green waste with that. So you're obviously disposing that green waste and the time constraints associated with that. And we are also looking at quite a large area of Newquay. I think there was an exercise that me and Joe were going to do today or yesterday, I can't remember what day it was, to see how much square meterage we actually cover on our own sites. But unfortunately, we didn't have time to do that. But if you just take Killer Court, for example, that is a far, it's a large site, and that doesn't take into account the play parks at South Vistral, Doorstep Green, the skate park as well, and combine that, it's a fair amount of time, as well as doing our other jobs like the watering and such. So the massive time constraint on that. My team are extremely proud of what they do and their high quality work. So when they see a site go back to full of these unwanted plants after only a certain amount of time, it is quite demoralising for them because they want it to be,
So just to clarify there, if I may, you're saying that up until, and I don't know the date, I wasn't clear from the report, although it is pretty thorough, up until a certain date this year, the team was spraying glyphosate, and after that point, you directed them they could only use hand methods instead. Is that correct?
yes.
And could you
that is
clarify
correct.
when that was?
It was the first discussion for the policy several months ago.
Great,
So we
okay.
trialled it through the summer.
Yeah,
I think
thank you. Understand.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's essentially it.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were spraying. I'm not an advocate for glyphosate. I'm on the fence with this, as my report states. And the other control methods, you have the positives and negatives associated with those as well. The cost, time, that kind of thing. That's essentially it. To summarise, yeah, it's a hard one.
Good to hear
divisive.
about, we'd rather hear than not, because it's important that people have a decent work conditions and they're happy with their work, and health and safety is taken care of. And if that's creating a health and safety concern, then absolutely keen to support you to explore other methods and come back with your proposals of what the various options and costings might be. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what the report is aiming at, is what are your levels of acceptance of the plant growth? Is there a level that you would be happy with? Is there a frequency?
We're having reversed the agenda is slightly horse before cart, but to
Yeah.
clarify, in the last meeting, I was asked to clarify wording, and that would be that the difference between synthetic pesticides and herbicides versus those that are permissible in an organic and are not synthetic, and then any other methods. There's hot foam, there's hot water, there's various other methods you could be exploring. And I've actually sent you quite a bit of information about that. And we're also would welcome you to go visit Wadebridge if you'd like to sort of see some of their equipment and how they're doing it, that sort of thing. Thank you.
Yeah, it was only for clarification, really. I mean, it's useful. It's useful information because it's a sort of taste of what might be to come if we do carry on going down this line and we end up manually removing weeds, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of evidence and a lot of tests that we were shown early on in this debate that basically said that those alternative methods that the chairs mentioned were not particularly effective and were mainly disbanded by other councils and unfortunately reverted back to glyphosate. I'm the same as I'm a member of the public. I'm not a glyphosate fan by any means, but it's the alternative that's concerning me. Just a quick question for clarity. Were you asked to do this? Because we have to keep reminding ourselves that the actual biodiversity policy that we're going to discuss shortly hasn't even been through council yet. Full council has not yet said in any policy whatsoever that we are not to use chemical spray. Yet you've took it upon yourself. I mean, was it an experiment? Was it to see how it went? Did you feel under pressure to do it because of the committee? Seriously, these are serious questions, because you didn't have to do that. The policy has not been passed.
With that, I was surprised to get this update. So, I respect it. I think it's a great effort. I think it's wonderful. And I also respect you updating us where the team sat. But at the same time, there hasn't been an explicit passing of the policy. And yet, absolutely, it's wonderful if you want to protect biodiversity in the town as a team. We're all on the same page then.
To summarise, what I can guess is so basically, you haven't used glyphosate, which is brilliant, right? But you've gone for the manual weed control and there's wear and tear on people, and you think the weed's coming back a little bit quicker, so we need a non-manual method to control the weeds. Essentially, that's what you're after.
Essentially, so yeah, there was a bit of stress, pressure,
Yeah.
brought on by this committee.
Understand why you might have felt that way.
So,
Yeah.
Sorry, do you mind if I just
God, you
finish
carry
on
on,
this
yeah,
one?
it's all those round and round.
So essentially, the other control methods that I looked at, we haven't got the budget, and I don't think we will have the budget moving forward. The cost associated with some of these methods is extremely high. Also, some of the other methods are just as bad, in my opinion, and the research associated with that has indicated that it might not be suitable for some of our locations, acid around play parks and metals and such like. So the most cost-effective and logical solution in my mind would be doing it by hand, which does have the negative impact on the body, but we can also use machines. At the moment, we're using fossil fuel machines that use plastic, so we do have those and we have been using them. The only issue with those is we have a limit on how often we can use them for hand-arm vibration and white finger. So to kind of move forward with this, I took upon ourselves, and the team were happy with this, to trial it during the summer in preparation for the policy if it gets approved. And I thought it's good research as well.
Yeah, no, I think, I'm sorry, Councillor Monk wanted.
Yes. So my summary of this is you've done a test period, and you found, surprise, surprise, that unless treated somehow, the weeds regrow really, really quickly. Especially, I guess we've had a really wet summer, but they're growing really quick. But also, you've had the potential for physical harm to some of the staff from some of the exertions that you've had to go to actually keep on top of what you can. And also, the staff morale has been a bit dejected because of the efforts that you've put in only to have to redo it again. So far, the trial has produced potential physical harm and also some mental health issues in the pursuit of this policy to not treat weeds as we have previously done. Okay.
Krieg, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So it sounds to me as if you've read the room. You've seen that there's a clear strategic direction for going and stopping using glyphosate, which, as we know, is harmful to biodiversity. So, I mean, there's some irony to the fact that we just had a presentation about a Green Shoots project, which of course is wonderful, and we're here talking about glyphosate. So thank you for that, and thank you to your team for the hard work they do. I see them and speak to them often, and I know that what pride they take in their work, and appreciate this is more frustrating than obviously just spraying a poison on the around our grounds. So there's a couple of things. Have we had any staff go off sick because of this, and have we referred them to occupational health? Don't want specifics, clearly that's sensitive. And I suppose the second thing is, you've come back with some suggestions which I think are great. I'd be really interested to hear more about hot foam. The research I've done seems to suggest that that's quite an interesting alternative and less harmful significantly less harmful to biodiversity. So you talk about budgets, and we're obviously into budget setting season. If there is some infrastructure required to ensure that your team can safely manage weeds going forward without using glyphosate, then I think now's the time to start talking about that. And then before I let you answer, I suppose anecdotally what I would say is I've spent a lot of time walking around Newquay this summer, and the increase in biodiversity, I would say, is apparent. There are many more butterflies and caterpillars and bits and pieces on the pathways and in the bushes, and I can only think that the fact that we haven't sprayed any poison around Newquay this year has helped that. So I think that that's a positive.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I won't go into too much detail about the staff issues. So just say one member of staff was off with 2 member staff reporting issues with their backs, unfortunately. I think that could potentially be negated if we had larger team. If you essentially have 2 members of staff just looking at the weeds and rotating, you could negate that. Budget-wise, I would say, yeah, I've just sent Anne all the info for the upcoming budget, so she is aware of that. I believe we've got the potential 7K going. So to look at control methods, it's a good chunk within our own internal size. I think that is achievable. And you're right, the biodiversity is like we said I spoke to you at the weekend. It's amazing. it's what we want. We don't want to get rid of these plants, but they can't be in the places that cause more issues to our infrastructure and tarmac and footpaths, which will have a cost associated with that. But yeah.
That's why we were asking that you explore the other methods. Thank you. That would be great. Yeah, and I've sent some links to some early research on that. Councillor North.
Just a quick point. It's nice that you put in that there was a positive impression from the public on the manual removal, and it would have been nice if you'd put that under a separate heading. You know, it's tailed on with staff feelings and observations, but that's a positive, isn't it? Obviously, the staff talk to the residents and visitors on the Killicourt and other places, but it just looks like an add-on, but it would have been nice if that was highlighted.
So I think it's part of health and safety for your staff is also less exposure for them to chemicals as well. So it's great to see that they're getting less of that. Sorry, please.
Let's come back to Councillor North's comment. Yeah, completely agree. They also, you know, the best thing about manual removal is it's an instant impact. You see them removed, so you do get that satisfaction. That's what the teams say. It is hard work, but you get that satisfaction. You get the positives from the members of the public, and obviously they're not using glyphosate. Yeah, so I'll just jump to key issues. The Killicourt bin store, the one next to the change in place toilet. This isn't kind of a recommendation. I think it's just a steer if committee would like me to explore putting the recycling bins in that location. We're getting a lot of antisocial behaviour. The wooden fence itself and the gates often get opened and damaged, and there's a lot of human waste in there from drinkers and whatnot. It's not great. So there's a potential option to look at installing the general waste bins or the recycling bins and removing that whole site and just having more waste bins there instead of that large open space.
Helen, yeah, thank you.
I mean, yeah, I know what you mean, and it's at the side of the changing places toilet. In a way, I suppose, if we could have another set of the general and recycling bins there, that's every exit from the Killicourt just about covered, isn't it? Other than the bottom exit near the bandstand. We've got one at the top, we've got one at the bottom, we'd have one at the other top. I think I prefer to see something the public can use than spend money on something that just hides bins. Does it have any impact on cost of emptying them?
It wouldn't, because it's on the route Biffa use, so it would just be...
a relatively small part of the overall budget, yeah.
It would actually be less because there's 4 bins and then at the moment they get emptied twice a week.
I presume, yeah. If we could ask you to try to find out what that difference is, which I think is pretty minimal on the Biffa front, and then so would anybody like to propose that we, sorry, Hannon, yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to propose that if it's down to a choice, I would prefer to have another set of general and recycling waste bins there that the public could use, and I'm happy to propose that.
And I would make that be just on the grounds that it's within a certain budget. I'm just trying to pull a number out of me. Up to 500 difference a year, or sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, the bin stores presumably house some wheelie bins at the moment. I seem to remember seeing them. What happens to them if you?
There's 4 in there, so it depends how many general waste and recycling bins you want. We could put 4 bins there or half it and give 2 back to Biffa.
Sorry, isn't the tenants not use the bins there? Okay, I think it's probably worthy of a. I mean, my feeling is I'm completely supportive of having more bins, but my feeling is we probably need to explore some of those things before we move forward. I don't think there's a huge amount of rush in doing this. I don't think so. I'm happy to hear more from you next time, and if you've got some answers to those questions, that'd be great.
So in principle, it sounds like we all support. We just want a little bit more detail fleshed out. But yeah, no, thanks for catching that as a solution. Great, thanks, Joe. Okay, so Councillor Hannon, is that okay if we're deferring the actual
Yeah,
final
that's fine.
decision?
We've got to make sure they've got somewhere to put their stuff. But yeah, thanks.
The Gardner.
Question which is on something else which is on his report. The speed cameras, really good to see them back up again. I'm aware that obviously the rotation's coming round. Have we got any more locations yet on the list, on the approved list, so we can move them to rather than move them and put them in the shed or whatever we do with them?
Yeah, we've potentially got one at Leader Road coming up. We met the highways manager, so that's one location. We've just changed Porth Way slightly further to the roundabouts, closer to the roundabouts because of the damaged one there. And I believe Joe and I are looking at other locations in the coming weeks. Unfortunately, we haven't had time for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a resource issue rather than anything else. We intended to revisit every single site to see if there's alternatives within the same area, as opposed to going out and soliciting more kind of locations. Just let that happen organically. So we have got one location at Leader Road which we can swap over to, but I'm also aware, and I think yourselves have been copied into Nans-Leden and some of the issues around that one, which I don't think are necessarily easy to solve. So I think we just need to do that exercise and look at all those locations again. As kind of your secondary locations, but in the same area, if that makes sense.
And I'm conscious that Joe, our Deputy Clerk, and the team have had an extremely difficult few weeks with a bit of an IT hiccup. So you haven't had time for this, but I believe we discussed last time sort of a very basic policy and form. Did we agree on that as a committee approach for how the public and even councillors could recommend potential sites, just so that this is one way? Or did we finally agree that everybody should just email randomly, so to speak?
You'll have to forgive me, Chair. I can't recall the exact decision. I did present a policy, but I don't believe at that point we adopted it.
Okay.
I think it was just to review the policy and communicate more to the public as to where these signs are and where they can go. So you'll have to forgive me, I haven't done that.
Exactly. No, you are easily forgiven given the context. Thank you. So if we just do our best to, over the coming months, to try to clarify that altogether in terms of the process. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, can I just take this opportunity to thank Joe and the team for the work they did. Well, Joe, probably Joe and Joe actually. Hanging baskets, they were really, really good. Lots of positive feedback. South West in Bloom judges commented on them, and they're lasting. I know we've had the weather, we haven't had the real long dry spells, sadly. So they've probably benefited from that, and we haven't had too many high winds, but they're phenomenal. They've been really good this year.
Second that, and your new, what do we call them, planters as well. I walked through with people who didn't know I was a councillor, and they said, "Oh, aren't they lovely?" So, you know, they're being noticed. And you noted in the report some small teething issues with them, and you were making a suggestion to potentially for future ones in future to consider trying to build in some seating, maybe so people don't use them as a seat. Sounds great, and lots of other councils have tried that, I think. So I'm in support of that. Does anyone have any other comments on that one? No? Okay. Joe, was there anything else on your report?
Yes, just a budget report request. So as you're aware, I was tasked to look at the bronze, silver and gold packages for South Thistle Play Park. After speaking to Anne, our FO, we've only got two options here. It's not in the support, this is essentially something slightly different. The bronze is just for repairs. There's no budget, unfortunately, for replacement individual items, but and there's essentially no budget to do a full design, which is obviously taking the park. So with that in mind, I've looked at the highest risk pieces of equipment to get replaced this year, which is the multiplay, as you can see in the report. It's made by Compan, and it will be repaired by Compan. I am struggling with this because the park is it's a mix of different pieces of equipment from different companies, so it's very hard to get free quotes for this. So my request would be to go with the quote of £748 and 36 pence from Compan to replace the parts needed to bring it down to low risk.
Propose that we approve that, give you delegated authority on that. Would anybody like to second that? Thank you, Councillor Monk. And all in favour? Great, thanks everyone. Thanks so much, Joe, for keeping on top of that. That's fantastic. Seen lots of kids using that park in the past few weeks and months, so well used up there. And just check in, sorry, with our mayor, in terms of that budget for play parks or other biodiversity and nature things, is that something where at times, Joe, we can ask you to maybe look into quotes and designs, and then we can let our grants officer know about things that the committee is keen on but needs budget for?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not. Yeah.
Okay. You know, it's great that you're working with Anne to manage the budget and be responsible with it, and we can bring ideas through, cost them up, and then see if some money's out there for sort of things like a play park improvement or other things. Now there's a grants officer on board. Exactly. Okay, great. Yeah, so we're all just sort of learning that together, I think. Okay, wonderful. Great. So moving on to the next point on the agenda, the biodiversity policy and weed control, and that is in Councillors' packs. And I'd like to propose that we made a small amendment to it, which is that the words synthetic and non-organic methods are put in there, and otherwise the policy is approved in full. So, Councillor Creek?
Yeah, sorry, just clarify where that amendment, you want that amendment to go?
Point on the policy, which
number
is
10.
Sorry,
10.
I believe so. Sorry,
In
in front of me right now. I have reviewed it in recent hours, but
In replacement of what, sorry?
so the final wording says that the council would not use pesticides. Councillor Gardner raised the concern about would that mean we wouldn't be able to use vinegar and acetic acid. And so I've sort of reached out for, looked into what other councils across the UK is doing on that, and the wording that's recommended is synthetic pesticides and non-organic methods, which then leaves the door open for a variety of methods, Joe, that you and your team can explore and that are used by many councillors and other bodies across the UK.
I'm happy to second that, I'm sure.
Seconded by Councillor Creek and Councillor Hannan.
Yeah, I mean, before I forget, I want to ask for a name vote on this, please, for the committee. And also, I just want to remind everybody, and this is where I think a lot of my frustration lies with the way this has been handled. You know, this policy was taken to GNR for approval. And it was item 10, the very item that we've just amended again, which basically, for all intents and purposes, tied the hands of this council with regards to using artificial herbicides and pesticides. And it was item 10 that got brought up at GNR that's caused all these issues, because straight away certain members realised that that meant we would end up down this road that we're at now, where we're facing treating 10% of the town's weeds and leaving 90% untreated. That's the fact. I'm concerned that what's happened here is that that policy went to GNR, came back to this committee because it was felt we needed an alternative, which we now are going to vote on later. But it's never actually got to council. This has never gone to full council to approve this policy. So as far as full council are aware, and that's probably quite a few councillors that are not party to this committee, and GNR, which is a large number of the council, haven't had a chance whatsoever to speak on this, because the policy has still not gone through council. We're going to make a decision as a committee, effectively, to not use artificial herbicides through this policy that's going to go back to council, but we've already, as a committee, taken action and acted as if it's gone through full council. And we're going to pass a policy, we're going to pass a contract, we're going to approve a contract tonight that effectively says We're not going to use any artificial herbicides. We're going to manually remove or alternatively remove 10% of the town's weeds. And this policy still hasn't been to full council. Full council have had no say in it at all. And they're going to get the flack of this on the streets when people start complaining. And that's what I can't get my head around. It's not about glyphosate. It's about the way this has been used. Policy's not gone through council, yet the committee has acted as if that policy has and put in motion an action as if that policy has gone through council, and it hasn't. And that's what I can't agree with.
Councillor Creek, had you raised your hand?
Yeah, so I did, yes, sorry. It was a related question, which I think Councillor Hannan comments it probably makes it worthy of the question. Is earlier this year, I believe we agreed to write to Cornwall Council and inform them that this was going to be the last year that we would have anything to do with managing any plant material on the highway, and that from next year it is their responsibility again. I spoke to the clerk and he was of the same thought process. I just wanted to clarify if that letter had gone off.
So it came up in the original meeting where we discussed it as one of the recommendations. However, the actual final resolution didn't include that in there. So the final resolution was resolved to agree to raise a new request for proposal of curb management asking for bids at or near the amount we have in the budget for 10% distance of the 140 kilometres you heard about with non-pesticide methods. We will list other methods we think are appropriate, and it's up to the vendor to then decide which method they will use for the significantly smaller distance of these hotspots around safety. So whilst it may have been debated and discussed, it didn't actually come into a resolution. That being said, I did advise the Cornwall Council Highways Manager that this council was considering either stopping weed control or using alternative methods, so they are aware.
On that basis, can I propose that we write that letter to Cornwall Council so that they are, in fact, we are very clear in resolution that as of next year, the highway vegetation management is the responsibility of Cornwall Council and not Newquay Town Council. I'll propose that.
On that? Yeah. All in favour of that resolution? Okay.
Hang on,
Sorry.
no, go on.
Okay, my apologies. Councillor Gardner. Yeah.
Okay. So as I've said already tonight, I joined this council 8 years ago, and the key theme of the council then was collaboration. I don't remember going, well, this was us and this was them and this was us and this was them. We used to do things like we used to maintain the benches. They were owned by Cornwall Council, but we recognised it needed doing, so we just did it. We used to do things like maintain or do extra cuts around the town on things like verges and other public spaces which this council doesn't own. And we did that because we just wanted a tidy town, and we just recognised it's what the residents wanted. Right, you know, you can argue all you want, but we did that because it needed to be done. We did the weed spraying, we did the weed control for over 10 years because it just needs to be done. And we didn't argue about it. This council is allowed, it doesn't have a right, it is allowed to raise a precept. Okay, it happens through a thing called power of competence. That power of competence can be removed at any one time. It's up to Cornwall Council if they let you have power of competence or not. Okay, it's in their gift. So you raise about 10% of the council tax bill that these people here pay. You raise that to look after this town, and this year you put it up against a lot of our wishes by 27%, as the gentleman's already said, and at the same time withdrew from doing anything to do with any land that the town council didn't specifically own, irrespective of whether the town needed it doing or whether it looked well. On one hand, you've got Cornwall Council have cut back on doing the verges. I agree, a lot of the verges look terrible. It was a ridiculous policy, but it was a pollinator's policy. It was backed up by a policy, like the biodiversity policy. You can't have it both ways. You can't complain about the state of the verges and then say you want a biodiversity policy that doesn't allow you to sort of do weed control. Okay, and okay, it doesn't allow you to do 90% of weed control. No, I'm not. No, we've voted to stop all weed control of any method by 90% and stop all glyphosate by the extra 10%. So we've got a policy that does that now, and yet there's still this us and them. What about the people of Newquay? What about the residents of Newquay? Have you all forgotten why you're town councillors? Because actually, we're here to serve the people. And if we've got people in the audience, right, I'm allowed to speak. If we've got people in the audience that are saying they want the weeds controlled or they want the bushes cut back, then it's up to this town council to just put aside these petty differences between Cornwall Council and the town council and do it because the residents just want it doing, and we're charging them. We're upping their council tax by 27%. So that's what I've got a problem with. At no stage throughout any of this process, as we've been putting this in, have we asked the people of Newquay what they want. We haven't asked the residents what they want, because I'll tell you now, most of the residents are bothered about the way the town looks, not whether we're spraying glyphosate or not. And I know you will have emails and all that sort of stuff. Well, I've got emails as well that are probably to the contrary. So the only way we'll truly know is to ask the people of Newquay whether they want us to do weed control on the remaining 90% of the town that doesn't involve the spraying of vinegar. And then the other thing is, you're about to start pitting.
1 minute, Gardner.
You're about to start pitting the people of Newquay against each other, because you've said you're not going to do 90%, yet we do not have a criteria.
Never said we're not doing weed control.
You said I can have 1 more minute. You do not have a criteria around how you're going to do that 10%. So you're going to make it an all-out free-for-all, and you're going to pit different areas of the town against each other. And I don't agree with that either.
Right, thank you,
Just
Gardner.
quickly to respond on that. I mean, the idea of was like to take over the toilets that Cornwall Council were going to shut, to take over the library that Cornwall Council were going to shut. This council picks up all the stuff that the cuts to Cornwall Council, that any service that is not protected, they've offloaded and said basically knowing we'll shut the toilets or the town council will step in. So we're stepping in. But there's one. What you just did. The point I'm saying is, it's like no. The idea that, like, you know, we have to, like, do extra services. We, like, you know, Cornwall Council are in charge of the highways, obviously, that's why there's a highway department. But, like, for some reason, the town council steps in again, and we charge the people, because, you know, that the taxpayers of Newquay have to pay for this. So we're paying Cornwall Council to look after the highways, and then we're also paying extra to the town council to look after highways. And all we're proposing with this letter to Cornwall Council is to say, don't rely on us to do this anymore, okay? Now, there's nothing to say that we've got a reactive environment team, and if we see issues that we think Cornwall Council isn't picking up, we're perfectly within our rights to say, okay, we'll go and clear that drain, we'll go and deal with this problem. But the fact that we're, like, kind of morally obliged from some favour that we agreed years ago to do extra weed control on top of the weed control that the people of Newquay are already paying for, it's not something that I just think we should just let them know we're not going to guarantee we're going to do this. If it needs doing, we might be able to help, but we might not. But the point is, you know, we're looking after your toilets, we're looking after the library, we've picked up so much stuff that Cornwall Council has dumped on us. This is just one thing that we're just saying, look, we're not going to do it. We're not going to guarantee you that we're going to do it. That's all we're saying, and that's all this proposal means, is that we're not just guaranteeing one more thing that, frankly, we don't have to do, and I personally don't see why the Cornwall Newquay taxpayers have to pay twice for it. And the glyphosate thing is completely different. I mean, we've got our own land that we have to find a method of weed control for. And that's, you know, Joe's pointed out that maybe the physical aspect of removing weeds is demanding on the staff. So we'll find another way. But what the biodiversity plan says is that we won't use synthetic herbicides and pesticides because they're dangerous to the environment, they're dangerous to the staff and to the people of Newquay. So all we're doing is, with this proposal, is we're just going to recommend to GNR, which is like the next level up. So it's like this committee, then the heads of the committees, then the full council. So we're taking the process from here to say, right, this goes to the next committee, they'll look at it if they approve of it. They approved of it before, the only problem that was holding it up was the sort of wording and the process of weed control, which we think we've got round with the synthetic and the organic. So that should get round that little hurdle that there was. And then it will go to full council, and every full councillor's got all the time, you know, every opportunity in the world to voice their opinions so that they then can walk around and not feel responsible, you know, not feel that they've had an input. So it's the correct process, this committee, GNR, full council, at which point there's plenty of opportunity for people to object. But I think this is why we're proposing this letter, and this is why we're proposing this to GNR.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I want to speak. Just firstly to clarify that we've never said we're not doing weed control. If anyone's listening, Councillor Gardner's words are incorrect there. Yeah, excuse me. Order. I'm sorry. We have never said we are not doing weed control. We do weed control. Joe Ashton's team does plenty of weed control all the time, and we also do other weed control. And I have personally put significant work into working with the team who did great work on getting a bid for further weed control where that is requested, and that has been on public record in multiple meetings. Speaking of multiple meetings, Councillor Gardner, it's quite strange to me, weird that you would suddenly start talking about consultations when we've had months of discussion of this where you could have raised that as a point and you didn't. And we do things all the time as a council where we don't have consultations because it is on public record. We welcome local residents to come and tell us about their concerns so that we can understand them in detail and in a relevant sense, and actually have a discussion and mutual understanding. For example, that we don't do the curbs, we only do, sorry, the verges, we were only doing the curbs, for example. And this gentleman has, you know, had to be brought up to speed on that, although, you know, he has other concerns that are relevant to us, which we will take on board. And we've had absolutely months for that conversation. And
Chair,
again,
I've got right of reply. You've mentioned my name. It's in standing orders. I have right of reply. You've mentioned me by name. Just for clarity, what I said on weed control was you voted to lower weed control by 90% across this town.
We are not doing weed control. Those were literally your words, Councillor Gardner.
Hang on.
We are doing weed control.
If I can just finish. Okay, what I said was you have voted to withdraw all weed weed in 90% of this town.
That's not the words you used a moment ago. That's why I've responded.
I'm clarifying
Thank you.
Okay, this committee, 4 of you, not all this committee, voted.
Different point, Councillor Gardner. That is not the point you made a moment ago, which I was clarifying.
If you let me finish, I am clarifying a point which you demanded.
You're clarifying a totally different point.
Okay, I have 2 points I wish to clarify, please.
It's on video now.
Chair, if you're not going to follow standing orders of the council, then...
We're making an incorrect statement.
No, I've got a right of reply, Chair.
Well, I have a right of reply as well when you're making an incorrect statement.
Okay. Right, there's 2 points which I wish to clarify, please. The first point is what I said was you voted to withdraw all weed control in 90% of the town. That is a fact. In the remaining 10...
On the
hang on.
curbs.
Hang on.
Not in 90% of the town. On the curbs.
Okay, I'll clarify.
With glyphosate.
Okay.
That is the only thing we've made the
You
change on.
voted to reduce the amount of weed control that this council does by 90%.
On the curbs with glyphosate.
Because that's what you're doing before, so I'm saying by 90%. So, I can't even remember my second point now because you just interrupted me.
Just on your point about the survey and asking the people, don't forget that in May next year, there's the opportunity for everybody to say what they think about it.
Okay,
so rather than have a survey, let's just run it up until the election.
Okay, so my second point is why do I think now we should have a survey and I didn't think before? The reason I think now is because people can see the results now. Okay, you can clearly see. You know, we've had emails into the council. We've got a member of the public here tonight. People can clearly see the results. You cannot walk around town anywhere without seeing the results of what has happened. Therefore, it has prompted more people to become interested in it and actually want to know reason why. That is why I think we should do a survey, and that is why my view has changed now to what I changed before. That's why I'm saying we should do it now, and I didn't say it then.
Well, Councillor Gardner.
Maybe I haven't decided yet.
It's not a criticism, it's something you're thinking about. Councillor Monk.
Thank you very much. So I think, again, what time has done is it's focused my mind on what we've previously agreed, was not to use any type of synthetic, whatever the words say about artificial. And I think previously I was in favour of that, but I think since then, what has come into my mind is that I've not seen anything that is a viable alternative to what we're already doing or what we did previously. And my mind is drawn back to a meeting I had about 10 years ago, where I actually somehow was in this meeting with about 20 other service managers like Joe from different councils across Cornwall. And I remember the chap from Camborne stood up and they'd agreed to stop using glyphosate. And he said, if you do it, it'll cost you 8 times as much as it costs you now. It won't work. And then we had to spend 60 grand clearing it all up. And I can see already in 6 months the amount of weeds that are growing at the curbside. And it's not just weeds that are growing. You then get build-up of other detritus that hangs onto the weeds. And pretty soon you're going to get ingress from the curb to 12 inches to 18 inches. So I'm hopeful that we can come up with an alternative that meets the requirements for the people of Newquay, but I'm not convinced that we can. And therefore, I can't support the wholesale taking out of chemicals that we've previously used, because I don't see a viable alternative. And in my opinion, we should aim to not use them, however, have it as a backstop in case it fails and we end up in the position where the town is already starting to look even more of a mess as a result of this, and it will get worse. And then to turn around and say, well, we can't go back to using anything because we voted against that at a meeting. So I'm sure it will go through anyway, but I won't be voting for it. Thank you.
So you had a meeting 10 years ago. There's been significant other technologies developed, and it sounds like you're a little bit out of date. There is. I've actually sent updates of that to our environment officer. We've seen them in other councils, and that was 10 years ago.
Can I just say that we did discuss about the 10%, and all of us were here in the meeting. We said if there was schools, GP surgeries, hospitals, that was discussed that they would be, we hadn't, but that Joe could go and do those. That was discussed, I don't know how many meetings ago, that schools, GP surgeries, access wouldn't be limited. I think we're just going round and round the houses, to be honest.
Yeah, sorry. So proposal on the table, just to, comfort the minds of those that, that feel uncomfortable or want consultations or wish to go back to using glyphosate. We're obviously put Cornwall Council on notice, as we've already done verbally, and I'm sure Cornwall Council will explore consultations and the use of glyphosate on their highways, should that be something that they wish to uptake next year. So my proposal for that letter still stands.
Chair.
Voted the letter through. We haven't voted the letter through.
Can we go on the letter?
Okay. So I'd like to propose that that letter is sent, and you would like to second that? Okay, and a vote that we're sending a letter to Cornwall Council on notice. Thank you. And you wanted that as a named vote, was that correct, Councillor Hannon?
No, I want the main
Yeah,
vote on
okay.
the policy to be...
So thank you for recording. For some work on that, if you want to loop back to us on it.
I've got a proposal, Chair.
Councillor Garner.
Letter? Yes.
I'm sorry.
against?
Those who would like to vote against, my apologies.
I'm Vice Chair.
Thank you. So there's 3 votes against. Thank you.
Okay.
Was that, sorry, Hannon, that was a vote against, was it? Yeah, yes. Not an
I've got a
abstention.
proposal, Chair.
Yes, Gardner has a proposal.
Okay, so I'm going to propose that we ask the public whether they want us to stop 90% of weed killing in the town. And hang on, and I'm very specific with the question. And can you minute the question? The question to be: do you support Newquay Town Council reducing their weed killing by 90% in? No.
Would you like to
Hang
second
on,
that?
by 90% in this town. That's what I'm proposing.
Yeah, sorry. So the letter that we've just agreed to send to Cornwall Council obviously takes place from next year, 2025. We are now in September of 2024. I'm sure Joe will guide us on this, but generally speaking, you wouldn't do weed control across the autumn winter.
It's environmental. You can technically do it if we have a warm winter.
So what you're suggesting is that we weed control for the next 2.5 months.
I'm not suggesting we do weed control. That's not what I said. That's not what my proposal was. My proposal was to ask the public whether they want us to or not.
It's a proposal, Gardner, that there's a survey. Hannon would like to second
Yeah, I'll
that.
second that.
Who would like to vote
Sorry, before we do that,
for that?
can I just quickly
You'd
say,
like to speak to it.
with respect to surveys, I'm not sure it's a good idea after the whole toilet thing.
Well, I'm not agreeing to that. So I won't be
All right.
voting for that survey because I disagree with the wording. I think it's misleading. It doesn't discuss the issue. And so I won't be voting for that proposal, although I love consultations. I think they're fantastic. We should do more of them, but they should be done properly where people actually are asked a fair question. So I shan't be voting for that specific proposal, although generally consultations are great.
Hang on, if you wish to amend, I'll take it on board. If you wish to propose different wording,
Well, I wish to actually discuss that in a different meeting. We actually have an agenda to work through tonight, and so therefore I'm voting against that tonight.
Okay, so I've got the substantive on the table. What I'm saying is, if it's wording that people can't get past, and you've just given that reasons why you won't be voting for it, if it's wording that's important, I'm willing to listen and change the wording.
The budget,
If people want a different wording.
Costs a lot to
If
do
you
a
don't want
consultation.
people to have their say, then that's fine. But,
I've said,
which is why I'm offering to compromise.
But maybe
like,
stick to your original proposal and see.
yeah,
Can I just ask?
Councillor North,
A moment
yes.
ago, somebody proposed 6. Newquay Town Council Biodiversity Nature Amendment was number 10. Somebody seconded, and then we were going to go to the vote. And then we've all come in with different. So where are we? That's all.
So I'd like to propose that we have that
Hang on.
vote
So
now.
I've tabled mine as an amendment. Okay, amendments get done first, and then you go back to the substantive.
How would that be an amendment to the policy?
Okay, so what it's,
How can a survey be an amendment to a policy?
because it's consulting on something that's in the survey before we take a formal decision on it.
Policy, though.
I would ask some advice from the person
Yeah,
that's sat over
sure.
here.
I'm happy that we have a vote on your proposal, but it doesn't seem like a
I mean, I
If the
think,
amendment's not quite right, I'm happy to change the word.
I think it just, Councillor Gardner, I would just suggest you just, if in approval of Councillor Hannon, you just withdraw your motion and then put forward a new one with suggested different wording.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. So I'll propose it differently. So we've got a new policy, we've got a new biodiversity policy. So therefore, I would propose that before this policy is referred to GNR, that this committee conducts a public survey on the contents of the policy.
to second that.
I'll second that, and I'd like a name vote. Thank you.
And all in favour of that? So there's 3, all against. There's 4 against. Okay. And love consultations, have supported a number of them, and I would support them in a different, in a more thought through, fully discussed, budgeted approach that is reasonable. So I would like to propose the biodiversity policy with the amendment that was discussed to clarify that final point of it's not no use of any pesticides, it's no use of synthetic and non-organic pesticides. Joe, is that clear? Thank you. Okay, so, and a seconder for the full proposal. Thank you, Councillor Creek, and a vote on that policy. So there's 4 for the policy and against. There's 3 against, and you've caught the names. Thank you. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for input, and keen to keep the discussion going on about how we keep Newquay looking tidy and we protect our roads and pavements. And there are multiple methods by which hundreds of councils in this country are doing that, and we are modernising and moving that way. So thank you to everybody for the partnership on that. So the next point on the agenda is Who is Hut Lighting? and a decision to be made around bookings. Sorry, yes?
I think you missed item 7.
I'm sorry.
It's juggled around a bit.
Thank
So it's easy
you.
to-
Oh, Nuki and Bloom report. Thank you. Trusty. Trusty Virginia. Nuki and Bloom report. Do we have, thank you, Joe. Okay.
I don't want to steal Councillor Hannan's thunder, so if you've got any update, Councillor Hannan, but I was given a brief email from Councillor Thompson, which is the Nuki and Bloom report, so if you want me to read it verbatim, I'm happy to, but essentially there is a recommendation therein, their report, which is around the South Western Bloom presentation in Bath on the 8th of October. So they would like to purchase 4 tickets. The mayor, including 3 members of Nuki and Bloom, to attend that presentation at a cost of £120. So it's something we've done every year. We did it previously. So it's just a recommendation with this council support paying the ticket fees, and having looked at the budget, you've got 2,500, which will cover it.
Can I just check? Have you got the names of the people that they're wanting to be paid?
I can't see any names in the report, I'm afraid.
Okay. I'll just put a proviso. If I'm one of them, I'll be paying my own way. I'm not technically a member of Nuki and Bloom. I will be probably driving them, but I'm quite happy to pay my own. It wouldn't be right for me to pay. I will be going. I may be going as a partner of a judge, in which case I won't have to pay. But if it's included in that number, take one off. If it's not, it's someone else, then obviously we should pay for them.
So I just say thank you, Councillor Hannan, and to the Nuki and Bloom team. It's really been blooming this summer. Their good work and looking beautiful, and really keen that we continue to support those great efforts, and look forward to a fuller update next time when Councillor Thompson's able to, and or any update from Nuki and Bloom. Thank you, Joe. Yeah.
Yes, sorry, Councillor North's correct, but I will send across the notes of the meeting after this meeting. Unfortunately, I only got it this afternoon.
So I propose that we approve that budget request just now. Would anybody like to second it? By Councillor Hannan? All in favour? Gardner, are you in? Yes. No. Okay. Great. Thank you. I think everybody's in favour. Thank you.
Can I just say, Chair, just so it sounds a little bit, you only got it today. I think they only met today or yesterday. So I'm just protecting Bloom there. It sounds a little bit, I only got it today. It's not just come on the day of the meeting for any other reason. Then I think they actually only met today. Yeah. So that's why you've got it today.
So the next point on the agenda, item 8A, is the Who's Hut lighting. Now we're on to the Who's Hut lighting. And a decision to be made around bookings for lighting up of the Who's Hut for events. Joe, thank you.
Defer to Councillor Hannan in a moment in regards to the Hughes Hut lighting and what it's going to do and where it's sourced and what we're using. But this is more around the ongoing process. So this committee, a while back, had already agreed the principle that we would, on a temporary basis, uplight the hut for various occasions, but I don't think it was ever actually put in a cast iron resolution. So what I would like to recommend is, now that we're fortunate to have some temporary lighting, thanks to Councillor Hannan and resident Zoe Dixon, that we basically put this under the events booking process within the office. So anytime we want to light up the hut, or someone wants to use the lighting to light it up, it just goes through our formal events process. So I'd like to just suggest we agree and permit for the Hughes Hut to be lit on a temporary basis for events, and that all lighting requests are managed through the events booking process.
I don't know if it's an amendment or whether it's something you can just change. Can I just add on to the in consultation with Newquay Lions? Because I pointed out in the email, it will be Newquay Lions equipment, sponsored by ex-Councillor Dixon, but it will belong to the Lions. I think they should have even just a consultative say in who's applied, just in case it crosses anything that Lions don't support or agree with. The final decision can be with the committee and the council, but if the Lions could be consulted.
Yes, thank you. So,
I'll give a quick update on it then before we vote, just so you're clear. The equipment was paid for by contributions at Terry Dixon's funeral, and the money is sufficient to buy the lights. I haven't bought them yet because I wanted this meeting first, just in case. But if it's approved tonight, we will be purchasing them as a Lions Club. They are going to be a temporary fix. They will be fitted on the day of the request. They'll be rechargeable. They won't be wired in. They won't affect the infrastructure in any way. Hopefully they won't be stolen. We'll try and secure them. They'll be taken away the following morning and recharged by the Lions and stored by the Lions. And the next event is actually Pancreatic Cancer Support Day, which is the very event that we did a year ago for Terry. So it's quite fitting, really. Thank you.
Councillor Hannan, and our condolences again to Zoe for her loss, but glad to support this remembrance and possibly for others who face distress in the town. Thank you, Councillor Hannan, for that. So would all in favour of voting for...
Proposer and seconder, Chair.
Yeah, sorry, I had proposed, but I'll propose it again. Yes. So I propose that we accept your, as you seconded, and all in favour of, thank you. Okay, great. Thank you very much for the update today, most appreciated. Thank you. Okay. So the next point on the agenda is the Concrete Waves Working Party report. Councillor Monk. Great.
Yeah, thank you. I suppose no news is good news, really. And there's a couple of things I'll mention. The scene up there is very, very good. Everyone seems very, very happy. The only thing of note that I've come across is Chocky's Cafe is up for sale. I believe he's got a potential purchaser. I've absolutely no idea who it is, and that's all I know about that. And then I've just had one report that one of our usual protagonists has been entering the electric box, or found a way of accessing the electric box and play around with the timers. So I'm just saying if we can try and put better locks or a chain around the electric cabinet, or just make it more secure.
I think this was a couple of weeks ago. Our maintenance operative Simon looked into it. The locks are really chunky, so you do need a hefty bit of kit to cut them open.
I think what people have said is the lock itself is good, but the actual hasp and staple isn't as strong. So I don't know how he's been getting in, but I'm not sure 100% that he has, but I've been told by a few people that this chap has been getting in.
I'm hoping now we've moved on to the winter lighting hours. It might stop, but it's on our radar. I mean, we can put a chain around it. We can look at alternatives. Yeah, definitely.
Just finally, I think that the winter lighting schedule that we agreed is working very well. I think the extra week that we gave in May, and we started it a week earlier as well, I think that's generally gone down quite well, and I've not received any complaints about that. That's fine.
The toilet closed, wasn't there, due to vandalism up there?
Thank you for that update. Yeah, it's a fun spot. Great. I've just realised that we didn't agree to the 8 o'clock hour. Do we need to have a vote on extension? Not until 9. Getting confused with planning. I've had so many planning meetings.
If I may give apologies, I have to leave at 9 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you. Okay. The other devolved green spaces and any recommendations within the report, do we need to review anything more here? Councillor Gardner, please.
Yeah, it was a couple of things. So the first thing, I'm aware it's not a devolved space, but I know the town council will be interested. And the first thing is the play park at Trenance. So we've got the final 3 designs for that now, and it goes to public consultation on the 23rd online on the old Cornwall Council Let's Talk. It is going to actually be a straight vote by the public. In addition, I'm also going into the primary schools to give them a chance, because I went into the primary schools right at the start before we started designing it. I suppose what I'd like to do is, I think it would be really great to have the designs up on boards in the library, leave some little sort of stickers there maybe, let people that are using the library, especially the children, vote on their favourite design, because it's just going to be a straight winner. The designs are very different, but all very complementary, I think. They all involve a 12-month of the year all-weather surface made from reconstituted rubber, like we've got up at Treloggan Play Park. So it was just a steer, and I know the library's not the permission of this committee, but it was a steer that we could basically, people for the 2 weeks that the public survey is open online, to leave the plans up on the board while that's going on. So it was that, and I won't steal Councillor Monk's thunder on the other.
Well, it's not really thunder, but it's more sort of early rumblings. I'm aware that the Town Council are quite keen to have an extra play park built somewhere in the vicinity of the town centre, and I'm aware also that that's not quite as straightforward as perhaps we'd all like it to be for various technical reasons. And I got thinking about this, and what I'd like to do is just put it out there that the park at Mayfield, which is a substantial play park, is getting to the point where it needs some work doing on it, not quite in the same way as Tranans Play Park. And I'm just having some very preliminary discussions about SIL funding for that. But also I thought, well, if the Town Council can't get another park in the town centre, whether they'd be interested in taking on Mayfield Play Park as well as devolving the green space that's there as well. So the play park would be done up and then devolved to the Town Council in that area. So it's a sizable piece of green field that could potentially come over to the Town Council if the Town Council had the appetite to enter into those negotiations. So it's only something I've just started working on. I've not taken it any further than having an initial conversation with an officer, letting him know. I'm also aware that and this is a problematic one really for all of us, is that when they did do a heat map, don't they, of different areas that are already served by play parks, the only area that comes up of not being served adequately at the moment with a play park is down towards Lusty, Porth area. And I don't know any green space that would be suitable down there, mainly because of the weather and the way that the weather affects that whole area. We've just been talking about the Barrowfields, and again, I walked my dog 3 times there, and everything's just utterly wind blasted down there. So I'm not sure what sort of play park would survive any amount of time in that location anyway. So if anyone has got an idea, and I'm all ears for the Lusty, Porth area, that's fine. But also at the same time, it's just that initial thought of this committee about what they thought about potentially renovating, having a new play park at Mayfield, but as part of a devolution of that area to the Town Council. So I'm just putting it out there.
Sorry. So is there any proposal then? I don't hear a proposal from you, Councillor Monk, although useful to hear the update. Sorry, Councillor Creek.
Yeah, thank you. I assume you're referencing the email that sort of appeared out of nowhere from an officer at Cornwall Council talking about the play park that we have proposed at Mount Wise Gardens, of which I have a number of meetings about this month. So happy to update you when I've got more information. I don't, you know, I'm not sure that there's any reason why we wouldn't put one there. Open to the Mayfield Park once it's been refurbished and regenerated under the same principles, I presume, as you know, as all devolution. And I'm just checking. In fact, it is on our devolution list that the clerk has already sent to the office at Cornwall Council, so they will be aware that we have interest in it. But you know, we set some clear principles on devolution and that they would come at you know at least a net zero in terms of cost. So it would need to come with an asset that was, that was generating revenue presumably, and I would imagine that would be part of a wider package. So, not against it. We've already, GNR already agreed in January, that was on the list. So among a number of other things I've just checked. As for play parks towards Lusty Glaze, as you say, I don't think there can be too few play parks in Newquay for the youngsters. So, let's get past this one and then maybe look to the next one.
Yeah, great. So just on that point, so that's already happening. A bit more conversation there, but we'll see what happens on those principles that we would need to make sure that was cost effective, that it doesn't put any burden on Newquay Town Council cost management for residents. And then on Trenance, is that a proposal, Councillor Gardner, that we give that? Do we need to give that steer? Do you need a formal vote from us, or?
I don't need a formal vote, as
Okay.
Councillor Gardner
Great.
highlighted.
So,
it's not
no-
within the kind of realms of this committee. I think as long as there's no objections,
Yeah.
we'll just
No objections from
advise
anyone.
them that the library is available for them.
Great.
Ultimately, I can just ask the library manager, but I
Yep.
don't want to do it
No,
if,
thank
if
you.
you're all against it.
Yeah, no, support that, absolutely. It sounds like great engagement with the people who are the target. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the next point, which is the Environment Working Party. The main point for the Environment Working Party has been a bit of work in the background around the biodiversity policy proposal, and so there'll be future updates. Watch this space in coming months. Southwest Coast Path signage from our officer. Is there any update lately? No? Okay.
No, I mean, I did chase them again a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately
It's
I've
been
not had
summer,
anything back.
and it's probably their
Yeah.
busiest time and your busiest time, so together. Yeah, thank you. We'd look forward to pick up on that in the next few months. So the facilities manager's report was in our packs. I've had a good read. The officer, congratulations, I think, are in order for he's just had a baby. Is that correct? So sending that. And did anybody have any points to raise out of that? I think the main thing was he was asking that we would approve some signage for the toilets, which sounded like a good step forward, as well as a few updates for us on the sort of what's been happening with the vandalism over the summer, and some really good management actually by the facilities team of prevention of having to come down and deal with issues, and Watergate loos in particular. So well done to them for that.
I'm conscious Councillor Creek's put his hands up first. Yeah, I mean, I in the facilities manager's absence, I have culminated this report. So a lot of the recommendations are coming from me, really. So I'm conscious of time. So the highlights really are around the repairs to the railway station toilet. I've kind of gone into detail in my report as to how and why that occurred. To my mind, I think the cost of the repair from the manufacturer is too excessive, and you'll note that a large bulk of their cost is travel time and accommodation, which they've put to be confirmed. So what I would like the committee to consider instead of that is that we source the door from the manufacturer and we get it installed from someone locally, which I've already had a quote for. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to update the report, but it's already half the cost. So my first recommendation, scrolling down, is to purchase the door. The second recommendation is to give myself the delegated authority to spend up to £2,000 to get someone to fit it. I don't think in any way, shape or form it will cost that, but I needed to have some sort of upper limit in my head based on what the manufacturer had costed it, and that was the only cost I had to go with. So that's my second recommendation. Just some items on there which aren't necessarily recommendations but more just for your information. I have now finally got some clarity over the ongoing saga about the fire risk assessment for 28 Mount Wise. The new fire risk assessor has confirmed that you can have 60 people in the function room in addition to the other tenants in the building, so the upper limit is 80. So if you want to increase the capacity of that function room past 60, there are mechanisms to do that, but that's whether there's any appetite in this room to do that at this present time. 60 is obviously a lot better than we had previously, which was around 20. So it's good to actually have some final clarity on that. The only thing I would add is that the front door, I think I might have highlighted it in my report, it will need looking at some point. So there's 2 doors into that function space which could accommodate, because of their width, 120 people. So there could be an exercise of why, if you're going to look at doing the front door, of getting a wider door and then increasing your capacity to 120, as opposed to a fire escape, which was the other option that we was kind of discussing. So that I wanted to float as kind of a point of discussion, really, before I go any further with that. The other kind of paragraph was around the contactless system for Narrowcliffe. I was quite remarkably surprised about the data that we had. That was, it was quite positive to see how well it had been used, and the hybrid model, I think, works well, of not completely moving over to contactless and still having that hybrid model. And I think I would like to replicate that for the future kind of toilets named Kilcourt and Trinance, ideally, is this kind of second phase. And thirdly, sorry, it's been a couple of days since I've read this report. Drainage around Marcus Hill, I want to start investigating, really, but in order to get firms to quote, they need to see an actual comprehensive drain survey, which is done by an independent surveyor, which locally seems to be Aquarod or Clearflow. If a councillor in the room knows of any of the drainage kind of contracts, I'm more than happy to go for a third quote. But I'd say roughly what I've had so far in estimates, probably about £1,000 for the survey, which will then give me something to give to the contractors to scope out that works. And lastly, really around doors, there's 3 doors which myself and the maintenance operative have earmarked as really in need of repair. Watergate Bay predominantly, because it's been closed for a considerable amount of time, and the way we see it internally is to start phasing in robust steel doors for many reasons, but I'd say the lion's share of the vandalism that we get is to the doors, to door mechanisms, to door closures, and not also to forget the climate that we're in. So marine grade stainless steel doors to start phasing in as and when we need them. Not a wholesale replacement of every single facility, because that you're looking at big bucks, but as and when we need to, start investing in these facilities and bring the lifetime cost of them down. So that's what I'd like to kind of, and I think that kind of makes the bulk of my recommendations. So first recommendation is about the replacement door at railway station. Second is about the installation costs. Sorry, yeah.
Can we just walk through them one by one?
Yes, sure.
One at a time. The first recommendation
Yeah.
was, again, can you just say again?
Yep, so first recommendation is to, sorry, I'm conscious that I've not allowed any councillors to speak, and I've seen a couple of hands.
Well,
go
if
up,
we
so-
take them first, then people can discuss that one. We'll have a vote on it. Then we'll do the next one, discuss it, have a vote.
Yep, sure. So the first recommendation is to purchase a new door replacement for the damaged one at the railway station. The quote, the local trades quote that I've had for that has indicated that we may be able to, with some minor fabrication work, actually be able to reuse that damaged door or have it as a spare. So there is possible cost savings there as well. So that's my first recommendation.
We're in for that, did you?
It's roughly, it was below £500 for the installation.
And do we have a budget line for that?
The maintenance, repairs and
Right.
renewals budget.
Okay, so Councillor Monk, yes, you'd like,
It's a second.
okay, all in favour? Great, okay, that one, next one.
The second one is around the installation. So rather than going to the manufacturer and getting them all the way down from wherever it is they're based, I can't recall, getting 3 quotes for someone to just do it locally. I've already had 1 quote, which is far more cost effective than doing an approach. So giving me delegated authority to spend up to £2,000 for the maintenance, repairs and renewals budget for the installation.
Councillor North would like to propose, yes, and Councillor Monk, second, all in favour. Thank you, great.
Thank you. The third is, again, delegate authority to myself to spend up to £1,000 from this maintenance, repairs and renewals budget from the council offices budget line to source a drainage survey for Marcus Hill. I don't think it'll be 1,000, but I'd like to have that as an upper limit.
Monk proposed, Councillor North second, all in favour. Okay, thank you, great.
And fourthly, as I mentioned about the stainless steel doors, at the moment the facilities manager, before he went on leave, only managed to source one quote for one door. So it's still in progress, but I would like to at least have delegated authority to source additional quotes and replace the Watergate Bay accessible as a minimum, because for how long it's been out of action.
Budget line for that, is
Yes,
that?
it's
Yeah,
a maintenance,
thank you.
repairs and renewals
Wonderful.
budget within that toilet.
Okay, so I can propose that, seconded by Councillor Monk, all in favour. Thank you. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, proposal around Mount Wise and the fire, no.
Not at this point, no.
Okay.
The last recommendation is around the proposed signage for the toilets. So as part of the public consultation, one of the things which was which came out from that consultation is how little information or around the toilets, the opening times, etc. If anyone's been to any of the toilets, you'll see that it's quite a scattergun approach with regards to signage. You've got a sign for their opening times, you've got a sign for you know, what days of the year they're open, etc. So I want to consolidate all the information into one more aesthetically pleasing sign, which will at least give people an indication of the times, where they can go to the next facility as well, because quite often, unfortunately, we have closures where you've got vandalism, and it would be useful so people can actually know where the next facility is rather than us putting a sign on it.
So
and having poster cases to do that, so at least you can chop and change.
There were some
information
great
as you
drafts in there, maybe a little bit of a rush, so a quick spell check. Other than that, I support that. Councillor Monk, okay. All in favour? Okay, wonderful. Councillor North, sorry. Wonder if maybe, yeah, yes, other people won't. Yeah.
Because you've got a scan at the side that will, you know, pop up. Do you understand those three words? Oh, you probably wouldn't. So why is the stage not on there when you put a little asterisk?
So that's the first one.
It's just draft. It is just a draft poster, so that's not by any means a final version. There are typos. There's some locations which need added on, changed. The comms officer also raised a very good point about the what three words. That was my idea, really, just to kind of, because I use it myself. I know the emergency services use it as well. So if there's any ever instances which require the emergency service, at least they can give them that kind of free phrase. But it's a good point that Councillor North made, and it's also one the comms officer raised. So I haven't looked at the final draft, but we were looking at some explanatory note to at least explain what that is and how they can use it.
Proposing an explanation at the bottom of what the what three words is, and then that might pick up on that. Wonderful. And
Very apt because it says bedrooms. A lot of them use the car park, don't they?
yes, okay. Okay, so wonderful.
you.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, yes.
Just got a point, because we've been talking about the Mount Wise building. It's really significant that we've got that fire safety assessment now. It's hugely significant, but it's no good if nobody knows about it. Like, the thing about that building is you drive past it, you walk past it, you've got no idea, for most of the people who live in this town, that there's got a space you can rent.
Yes, agree.
So I'm going to suggest two things, and it's not, I would say we spend the money now, but it's a bit of guidance for the deputy clerk to go in and look at. One is an additional sign outside that says rent this community space.
Yes.
Phone this number. And the other is some kind of advertising budget through our comms officer to look at, you know, a bit of a social media campaign, sort of sponsored, Radio Newquay, however we want to do it. And I'm not suggesting huge things. You know, you could look at something, look at a little campaign for 500 quid or whatever. But I think those two things are really important to just let's get the usage up of that building as much as we can. And I know it's been getting used a lot more, but now we know it's 60. We can at least work to that while we work on the 120.
Well, I also raised the point about the signage at the building. It's beautifully kept, but we need to make sure the community know that it is a community space. And we did have some signs drafts come to us, I think, last year. And so now would be the time to review them again and get them up on the building, thoroughly support that. So if we can get that done, hopefully in the next meeting, and then they're up shortly after. Just on that note, before we move to Councillor Creek's question, could we also, is it possible, I think you said you had a verbal clarification from the fire officer. Can we get something in writing for us as well that gets circulated to this committee?
It is in the new revised fire risk assessment, yeah.
So that you could get that sent around?
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, Councillor Creek.
Yeah, thank you. Just to say, the council has a ongoing subscription with Newquay Radio for adverts, so we can just stick it on one of those. It plays, I don't know, was it 6-10 times a day or something? So that's good use of one of those, probably across the autumn, I would imagine. But my original question, Joe, and I'm conscious that I think we haven't voted on the last point, but I was pleased to see that we have doubled the revenue of the toilets on Narrowcliffe over the summer by just adding contactless to it. I wasn't surprised, if I'm honest. I think I've been shouting about this for some time that, you know, by adding contactless payment to some of these toilets, we're going to increase the, you know, I never carry cash, and I know that lots of people in Newquay don't. And so, you know, this goes a long way, or will go a long way if we, you know, if we take it to the Killer Court and potentially another in you know, eating away at that £1,000 a day that we're currently spending on toilets in Newquay. So, so great job. What's your feel on how well it's gone? Because I know it's a different system to that which we've used before, and how easy you feel it would be to install it at the Killer Court toilets particularly, and I know you mentioned Trenance as well.
I mean, every project isn't without its snags. So there has been, I think, some cultural kind of or behavioural challenges, I think, with the main thing that I think we just need to kind of educate people more with possibly more signage is that they need to wait for their payment to process before they can open the door. Quite often you'll have people say they've not been able to get in when 9 times out of 10 they either haven't checked whether it's actually occupied or not by the indicator latch, or they just haven't given the payment time to process. And there is, like anything, it's like pay machines, there is a processing time. It's not immediate, hold your card up and it just automatically opens. You do have to kind of allow a good kind of 5 seconds-ish. And it also depends on the time of year as well. So when Boardmasters is here, even though it's a world sim, so what I mean by that is it accesses the best possible network in that area, but when Boardmasters hits, unfortunately, there is that knock-on effect. So payment does take a little bit longer to go through, but it does go through. So I think there's a little bit of impatience, unfortunately, that we just need to kind of work out how we can communicate that better. But I think as people use it more, they adjust to it and they get it. It's no different than the 4th Street toilet. So to my mind, I think that's the biggest challenge. Installation-wise, once they actually got on site, install didn't really take too long. But every site will be different. So Killer Court will have its own kind of challenges. Trenance will have its own challenges in terms of what's needed, in terms of the infrastructure. But I'm keen to get Killer Court because of its location, and Trenance because there's actually nothing there whatsoever since vandalism. So those were the 2 sites which committee wanted us to look at, and those will be next on my list, or Dan's list when it's back.
No, I agree. It's great to see. It's something that I know Councillor Creek and a lot of the committee, myself included, have been pushing for quite a long time, and it's good to see it starting to roll out. And just a bit of positive feedback. The Narrowcliffe toilets, obviously walk over there. I keep mentioning walk over there all the time, and I've seen a lot of holiday makers very patiently queuing all knowing that it's contactless and all using those facilities. And I thought they were actually holding the door open and they weren't, which was actually even better as well. Everyone was very patiently waiting their turn. So it was good.
Yeah, and just on that, I mean, it's not really on that point, but we had issues with drug abuse in those facilities, and that, you know, whilst you always get it, it does seem to have a bit of a decline since we've introduced the payment systems. And I know that is also always a kind of a point of discussion. Does it have an impact? Does it not? But the team has always felt that it does have an impact if you're paying to use a facility.
Regarding the contactless, you could put that on your signage, couldn't you? You could put cash and, you know.
Please wait 5 seconds.
Yeah,
Yes.
just so that they know and they're not ripping at the door.
Yeah, so it might need its own little sign next to the machine.
Yeah,
But
so at present, where there's a blank
just a small
plate where the contactless units sit, so just put a vinyl there with a step-by-step process.
exactly.
What to look out
Great.
for, present your card, etc.
Great. So it'd be great if you guys can get that done. Wonderful. Yeah, no, really fantastic numbers there. You've delivered revenue for the town. Okay. And we needed to take item 5 to the vote. Are you able to remind us, Joe, on that point?
Yeah, so this is to give delegated authority to myself and the communications officer to source A3/A4 poster cases for the toilet facilities using the other toilets expenditure budget within Public Toilet Central. So they're not particularly costly. I've done a lot of research, unfortunately, into poster cases, and you need something which is going to last in this environment as well.
The point also in that update about sort of tidying it up generally, making it more consistent, which sounded great. Councillor North, yeah.
Can we just ask, when you do that, you're ordering these casings, we've been asking for, I don't know how long, to get a casing out on our front door. So when there's a meeting on tonight, it's not just stuck with sellotape. So if you're ordering X amount of, add one in, because we keep
Thank you.
asking.
Yeah,
I know it's not this
great.
committee, but.
Yeah.
We've asked several times.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's a paper one. Yeah. Thank you. Wonderful. So I propose that we support that. Would anybody like to second that? Councillor Creek, and all in favour? Wonderful. Thanks so much, Joe. Excellent. And do we need to vote on anything about the doors at Mount Wise? What is the next step for you?
I think you could look at it two ways. I mean, I have a current quote for an automatic door, which is what I'm looking at. You can either have a like-for-like replacement, which is a lot more cost-effective, but I think the reality of that site is that with how it's placed in the wind direction, it just catches the door. So if you replace it with a like-for-like UPVC door, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how many times you ask people, they won't necessarily close the door in on themselves, and it just hits the wind.
So it wouldn't be the
hinges.
double that would allow the greater capacity, is that correct?
Yeah, so I think it's premature at this point. I'd like to do a bit more research and get some actual quotes.
I'm not sure what the arrangement is at the moment if you're hiring a space there and getting access and that sort of stuff. But can I just ask that access just be thought, I know you will, Joe, but just access be thought about?
Yep.
You know, is it maybe a weekly changing code or a daily changing code, whatever it is, that can be overwritten with a pass for those who work there, and then each time you make a booking you can just get a code or whatever it is. Anything which we can do to take the workload down for the staff going off and getting people in and out of there, basically, now that we're going to be using it more and more bookings, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, Louise can come in if need be, but we issue essentially a visitor's pass. So it's on our Paxton access control. So if anyone books a space, Louise will generally go ahead of time and show them the space, tell them about the access arrangements, and on the day they'll come to TIC, they'll grab a pass, and that'll get them into the areas that they need to, but only because we can control the zones and where they go. They can't get anywhere where they're not permitted to go. They can only get into the kitchen, the function room, and the small side room, and that's it. So yeah, that's how it's controlled.
And just to conclude that also, would I be correct in understanding that right now we shouldn't be renting it for 120 because we don't have the biggest safety doors yet?
Correct.
But 60 we
60,
can.
yeah.
Up to 60 in that ground floor plus people upstairs is fine for now. Okay, so we're all aligned on that. Thank you. Okay. And is, goodness me, where did it go? Correspondence, at which we haven't had any other correspondence to discuss this evening. Okay. Budget monitoring report. It was in everybody's packs. I had a quick chat with Joe today, after having reviewed it, that essentially, if I got it right, you were saying, yes, FYI to us all, but we probably need Anne and our finance officer to help us review it properly, and you will bring that to either the next meeting or possibly an extraordinary meeting if need be.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, this is your actuals to date, so this isn't the kind of 3-year budget going forward. So with RBS and our financial system being down for 3 weeks, it has kind of had a knock-on effect on the budget process. So I would like to just recommend this is for noting at the moment. I can't, unfortunately, answer any kind of intimate questions on any budget lines or how the figures are presented because I'm not your RFO. However, if you do have any questions, once you had a look at this report, feel free to email her and ask for any clarity.
Yeah.
I think what we're looking at is either an extraordinary ENF purely focused on budget, or it'll go to October ENF, but that is something for the town clerk and RFO to work through.
Councillor Gardner, yeah.
Sorry, Chair, if you'll indulge me, please. I've got just an idea, and it's just linked to money, but it's not totally linked to this particular thing. But it's the grants officer. Can I suggest that 2 things? One, we have a standing agenda item around aims and what this committee wants from the grants officer, because like the grants officer can't just go out and get money just for nothing. We have to have an aim. So perhaps we used to have a regular agenda item for grant funded projects. So perhaps we could do that just to best understand that. And what I'd like to see on this committee, I don't know if it's gone to other committees, but is a strategy around the grants officer. What are they working to? What are they actually currently going for? What is their task each day? Is it just go out there and find some money, or is it actually we've got these projects we want to do? What are they? I would really like an update across the committee, particularly this one. There's lots of capital stuff from the grants officer about what their aims are and what they're going for. What sort of direction have they been given to, hopefully some of the grant stuff can alleviate some of these budget lines on here.
Yeah, I'm happy to, if Chair's happy to add the agenda item on, which would capture giving the grant officer a steer on what this committee wants to kind of have him consider in terms of projects. In terms of reporting back what he's doing, what he's currently working on, that probably is best placed sat with GNR, but there's no reason why, this committee can't be included within that circulation. In terms, I don't manage him intimately, so that's, he falls under Anne, so I couldn't answer what he's currently working on. I know he does a lot of work with the town team at the moment. He's working with Councillor Thompson on a few things, so I can't, in all honesty, give you a comprehensive answer to that, Councillor Gardner. And
I will just throw in there an offer as well. I mean, the grant landscape is really, really difficult at the moment. It's probably going to get more difficult after the autumn statement in terms of government grants. But it's grants are my full-time job now at Cornwall Council. I'm more than happy if he wants to sit down and have a conversation about what's on the landscape from Cornwall Council-wise, and some wider contacts I've got through people like Cornwall Community Foundation and other stuff.
So,
And I just propose we have an extension.
yeah, extension on time, 9 o'clock. Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Sir, Councillor North, were you supporting the extension at 9 o'clock? Thank you. Okay, so 5 for that. And happy to... Thanks, Joe. And we'll see how that goes in coming months. Okay. We move into exempt. Thank you. The word I was looking for. That's appreciated. And Okay. Thank you. Okay. And review the solar panels proposal. We voted for the...
Yeah.
We did, for the extension, yes. Yes, we, oh, sorry. I'd like to propose that we go into exempt. My apologies. Thank you. All voted, okay. And then we need to turn off the machine. The green light is still going.